we go. Sorry about the wait, folks. I went off on a little adventure here at Good Natured World headquarters. Jerry, I was hoping to follow up on your email on earwigs. Folks, I'm sure you've been seeing them around lately. Anytime we get a little rain, it really seems to bring them out. I wanted to have a little visual that I could show you, and we're surrounded here by older, damp environments between the Baker Community Center and here at the Baker Annex. These buildings are both over 100 years old, and they've got, close to over 100 years old, and they've got lots of dark places and damp places. Jerry, your email had addressed the question of, are they helpful? Are they less than helpful? And as you found in your research, the jury is out, but a couple pieces I read. The question is, are they doing damage? Are they feeding on our plants? Are they harming our fruits and vegetables? And it does appear like they can do that. But there's also a lot of evidence that they're feeding on, as you found, aphids and things like that too. So they are omnivorous. There are worldwide, I think it's about 2,000 species. We don't really have that many native species here in the United States, and in fact, the one we mostly see around here is from Europe. I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, this would have been in, 77, 78, something like that. We had to do a bug collection for biology class. And we had one kid who found one earwig. Tom Bergman found earwigs in the wood. I believe it might have even been railroad ties that divided his house and the house next door. And it was Dermaptera. I remember he got an extra point because we got points for however many insect orders we were able to represent. Dermaptera means, I think it's something like leathery wing, and it describes that leathery exterior. Jerry, have you been able to learn anything else in your quest for knowledge of the earwig?
No, I think it's a mixed bag. I think they're good and bad, but I didn't send you a video I took a couple nights later, and this earwig was definitely sticking its head into the part of the plant like it was drinking nectar. I swear it was like acting like a pollinator.
Okay, well, and that is one of the things that they've been reported to be doing. They seem to have good qualities and bad qualities, but don't we all, right?
I mean, they're still creepy no matter what. They're creepy. Yeah. I don't like encountering them when I'm weeding, but yeah, I've grown to dislike them less.
There we go. Well, and that whole earwig thing, yes, there's the occasional report that someone found one in an ear, and maybe that rumor got started if somebody was sleeping in a damp environment. But it also, some of the old, if you trace back where that name earwig comes from, it actually describes the way the shape of the wing that is underneath. Now, I'm not sure that the European species can fly. I don't know if you found any of that in your research addressing how they move around, but I seem to recall that they weren't capable of flight. Now, I could be wrong, but I've never seen them flying. I know that, although I will see them by lights at night. And I really was hoping, I mean, we've got the perfect earwig environment here. I was really hoping I could hold one up for you. and we could talk about it a little bit more. But I struck out. One thing, if you go on an earwig search yourself and you find those they're called thyrsi. They're little projections off the back. That's another reason I think people find them creepy. They look like they're pinchers. The male thyrsi are curved and the female thyrsi are straight. They're supposed to be really good parents too. The moms, they do quite a bit of nurturing over their little broods of eggs. So keep that in mind too.
There's one species, and it's not in the United States. I forget. I think it's Australia or something like that, where the mom takes care of the babies and then they eat her.
I did see a little reference. Yeah, matricide, I think. Matrophagia, because it was the feeding. It wasn't just the killing; it was the feeding on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Happy Mother's Day. Yum, yum,
Thanks
yum,
a
yum.
lot. Yeah. Well, you know, while we're talking about things, eating things, we do have another special guest here. It's actually the subject of this week's column, the one that will be running later this week. This comes to us courteous of Jill on our restoration staff. She found this creature on her pant leg when she left Hickory Knolls. This was actually a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to see if I can get it to come up here on my finger. It's praying mantis. And we are getting into the season now where they're getting large enough that we can see them. This is a group of animals that overwinters as eggs. Now, I know my camera doesn't focus really well up close, so I'm going to try and hold it in and go, oh, look at this tough guy. Where you can see, we saw it right at the beginning. Here, I'm going to bring it closer. Yeah, it's getting fuzzy. This is not our usual Chinese mantid. This is a European mantis. So, Mantis religiosa is the scientific name for this creature. There we go. Now we're getting the posture. I was hoping that it would open its front legs up. You can kind of see right where the front legs reach the body. Boy, I can see it real well on my side. Right where the front legs reach the body, there is a black and white bullseye. And that's how the main thing to look for. There's other features on the body too that are different. This one doesn't get as big as the Chinese mantis either, so there's that to keep in mind. Now Jill found this when she found it, and actually until it molted the other day, it was sort of a light tan, an oatmeal color, and then boy, every night I've been out, as we'll see in the pictures tonight, I've been out underneath the deck light behind my house hunting for bugs for this little guy or gal. I haven't been able to figure out yet if it's a boy or a girl. Nope. But it's feeding quite well. It has molted. When it molted, it developed this green color. So I don't know if that's typical. I know color is usually variable in these guys. Maybe it was living someplace tannin color earlier, and now it's living. I've put a lot of greenery in here to increase the moisture in its enclosure. So for whatever reason, it's definitely developing a green color that it didn't have before. It's also missing a leg. I don't know what happened when Jill left it for me. It was in a little deli cup, and who knows, it had been riding around in her clothing for who knows how long. But it seems to be doing just fine. It's one of the it's the rear leg on the left side that's missing. Still got though both of those raptorial forelegs up there in the front. So, I do have a couple of pictures I loaded in so we can take a look at that identifying mark. Let me put it away before something else happens. There we go. It did lead to a little conversation with our friends at WGN. We'll be going back there in September, talking about the praying mantises that we have in this area, and maybe tying it into some of those old Japanese horror films, showing, the killer mantis. All right, with that, let me see if I can do our screen share here and pull up those pictures. Let's see. Pull up those pictures of our praying mantis. All right. I think I did that right. Let's go right here. And with any luck at all, you're looking at the picture that shows that inside marking, the one I was trying to show you before. This also shows the brownish color that the mantis came in with. That's one thing. Just the general look of these things. They look very much like an alien creature, things that we'll see on TV or in the movies. The other really cool thing about this, now keep your eye on the head. Oop. They turned. Zoom in here. They can turn their head back and forth. It helps them keep their eye on their prey. They don't have to move their whole body to shift around to keep an eye on an insect that's moving. I was hoping to get some footage, and I haven't yet, but I still have hope for the future that I'll get some video footage of this little bug stalking its prey. It really stands very, very still, but boy, when those front legs shoot, it kind of waits for just the right moment when the prey is within reach, and then bam, it grabs out and it clasps on. There's two spines. Well, actually, we can see them if we zoom in here. See those spines? You can see the one on what would be its right leg. Those are used to grasp and pierce the prey, and then those mouth parts move in and start, chomping away. Really cool. When Jill offered the mantis to me, I almost said no, because they are somewhat time-consuming to find prey for. It's not quite big enough to buy crickets for, and I would rather keep its diet natural if I could. We did have a caddisfly emergence last week, and that was really helpful, so I'm hoping we get another one of those soon, because I can catch a dozen or so of those, and Mantis eats well. I feel less guilty because the adult caddisfly does not have that much time left, so I feel less bad about taking a few from the wild, knowing that they're almost done with their life cycle. I feel a little more guilty with certain other creatures. Since we're talking about things that...
Pam, excuse me, but is the back leg broken or missing on your praying mantis? Looks like the back left leg.
Yes, there's a missing leg, and I don't know what happened. In fact, there's some talk about how as arthropods, and maybe some are more capable than others of regenerating, but I've heard about if a creature like that loses its leg when it's young, that over successive molts it can grow back. But this stub is even shorter since the insect molted. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of think maybe something happened when it went into the deli container that it was in. When Jill caught it, she kind of removes any sort of mantis traces in our natural areas. We do now. Oh, that was something actually I was going to mention. So when you read about the praying mantis or praying mantids in Illinois, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources materials say that they are present in the southern 2/3 of the state, but we don't have the native. There's only one native species in Illinois. It's the Carolina mantis, and it says that it doesn't come this far north. But through the magic of modern day technology and things like iNaturalist, I looked mantids up on there, and there are reports that seem to be verified. You know, with iNaturalist, there's different grades of certainty with identification, and there are several what are called research grade IDs of Carolina mantis in the Chicago area. One was in Oak Park. I think there were a couple in DuPage County. So it could be this is another example of an insect that's expanding its range north. It's going to make it a little harder because, you know, before when we just thought we had the European and the Chinese and that was it, it was fairly easy to make a decision about, you know, it's not native. And as Jill was doing, she would remove them, either keep them as a pet if they were an adult, or pick off the egg sacs and put them in her refrigerator, the egg cases, if they were in that stage. But now we'll have to look a little bit harder. Maybe we can find a Carolina mantis in this area. One more thing, and then we'll go on to those spiders. When we talked about this egg case or the Otheca, the Chinese mantids creation to me looks kind of like a roasted marshmallow. It's not perfectly square, but it's just a little bit smaller than a roasted marshmallow. And if you're really good at toasting them, it's about that color. It's a light brown color. The European mantis egg case is oblong in shape, and it looks it's sort of an oval shape, and it's got bars or marks down one side. It's about the same color as the Chinese, but a very different shape. It's similar in shape to the Carolina. So, yeah, more on this. I would love, if one of you happens to find a native one, I would love to hear about it. I'll keep my eyes open too. But there were far more reports of European and Chinese mantids in the Chicago area than the Carolina. But there's a few, which makes me think they might be heading northward as things warm up a little bit. All right, let's go on to our next picture, which was right after last week's program. I'm just fascinated. As I'm talking to you, I'm also aware of the darkening of the lights and the way the spider activity starts to surge. This is another spider, another Larinoides that is present in our area. This one has been documented to overwinter in this in an adult stage. So again, we might be looking at an individual that's a few years old. This is called a Furrow Orbweaver, and I believe it's Cornutus is the species because it doesn't really have any hair on it. There's another one that has a little bit more hair, but she was, all the time I was talking to you guys last week, she was working on her web, spinning, and then right after we finished up, then she parked herself there in the middle. I tried to get a picture of her underside. Let's see, I was wearing khaki last week. I'm always wearing khaki. But here's the mark, the dark underbelly marking with the light margins on the side. So yeah, another cool spider hanging out. The very next night, I went to my coworker Jenny's house. had a tree limb removed from their silver maple. She said it was about 10 years ago. It was interfering with some power lines in the neighborhood. And even though the tree was in the backyard, on that block, the power lines go through, I believe there's an alley, and the power lines go through the backyard. So it left a large scar where they removed the very large branch, and it looked as though it was solid, but Jenny said as this year has worn on, that has become increasingly soft, and when you thump on it, it sounds hollow. Something has started excavating in there. I wondered if it might be a raccoon that was digging around, maybe looking for grubs or something, could smell something in there. Maybe thought it could excavate itself a cavity to stay in. The wood is quite soft, but what caught my eye was this stuff here. Let's zoom in. It looks kind of like caviar. And to try and figure out what this was, I ended up doing what I always counsel against. I used an app. I used my Google Lens just to see if there was anything that came up that was similar. I didn't use it on this picture. I used it on this one. This is what they look like when you break off a piece of that wood. Isn't that cool looking? They look sort of like little berries. But as I found, as I was messing around with it, in fact, I think that I put, yeah, I did. They break and they stain. So I had a black thumb for, well, till I washed my hands. It didn't actually stain the nail, but I believe it's called Metatrichia for genus. Not sure on species. There appears to be a lot of slime molds that take a form like this, but the image search seemed to, there were a lot of slime molds in that genus that looked kind of like this, and look, from a distance like caviar, and up close like a blackberry. This was also in Jenny's backyard. This is a type of bird's nest fungus. Not exactly sure which kind, but I told her, yeah, I could crawl around her backyard all evening. That she said maybe some other time. But yeah, very, very cool things happening. You just add a little bit of rain, a little bit of water, and all sorts of things start to spring up. Now, because I've got the praying mantis and I have this responsibility to keep it well fed, I've been spending almost every night at bedtime out underneath the light on my deck. And besides those caddisflies I mentioned, there's a lot of other things that are showing up. Now, this is a type of stink bug that looked unusual. It wasn't the brown marmorated stink bug, and it wasn't our usual green stink bug that doesn't really have much marking on its back. This one had quite a lot of pattern. There was another one that showed up. This one was smaller too than the brown marmorated stink bug. It was noticeably smaller. When a second one showed up with these same markings, it was larger. I think this is a Juniper Stink Bug. And guess what grows on the front of my house? I got 3 enormous, probably too big for their space, junipers. So that would kind of make sense that these bugs are hanging out near where their food source is. Then I see these moths every year, and I thought, it's time I try to figure out what they are. It turns out that they are Lycan Moths, but boy, I got sucked into a really long article on iNaturalist written by a gentleman who was it was all about discerning the differences between two species of lichen moths. Hypoprepia, I believe is how you say that that genus name, but Fucosa, and then Miniatrus, I believe. I'm not even gonna try to act like I know the species of these. To me, I was just happy I got to Lycan Moth, but a lot of the controversy, the gist of the article was that the references oversimplify the differences between the two species. Some of what he was talking about focuses on this gray part up here behind the head, but then there's also the background color, which in this species is yellow, but in the other one it's reddish, but you can't just go by that. I was just thinking it was a cool little moth, and I think you all will be just as happy as I am at calling it a Lycan moth. Right? But yeah, if you want to get an appreciation for what entomologists or people who really delve into insect ID spend their time doing, go ahead and read it. I think he examined over 200 photos of the two species to try and make a case for looking at more marks than just that gray spot and the background color. What I had trouble discerning from the article was, well, if you don't just look at those, I mean, what are we supposed to be looking at? I couldn't figure it out. But anyway, keep your eyes open. They're flying right now. The Lycan Moth. Now this looks like something that I pulled out of a drain, but no, it is actually on the deck as well, and I was so excited to see that this is now for the third year a trash line orb weaver at my house. Now this is a spider, and if we zoom in we can see her. That's some dog hairs there. When I sweep the deck, when I sweep my house, I oftentimes will put the dog hair over the side of the deck, and it looks like some of it got caught in her web. But here she is. Let's zoom in. Little Cyclosa. This is a species, it's not very big. The spider itself, let's see if we go, I didn't have my lip balm out that day. I would guess that from the tip of her little spider nose to the end of her little spider abdomen is maybe 1/4 of an inch. It's not very big. It is, you can see the lines of the orb here. And what she does is every insect that she catches and every time she sheds or molts her skin, she weaves that into the center line here of her web. Now, in years past, like 2 years ago, I had one that was near the porch light at the front of my house, and I was going to knock the web down when I first saw it because it looked kind of messy, and I thought it wasn't being used. And then I looked more closely because all the trash that was caught up in the web was in a line, and sure enough, right in the middle was this spider. So it's a habit for this family of spiders to do that. But what happened in the case of the front door trash spider was that over time that center line got so heavy that on a windy day it actually broke, the web fell apart, and she was left clinging as it was flopping back and forth on a windy day in September. So this web is in there's not quite as much chance to catch a breeze where this web is, so we'll see if it maybe has a longer life and well, I'll just keep an eye on it. It's not as close to the light as some of the other spiders that have moved into the deck, so we'll see how she does there. But it is also trash line orb weaver season. Now this bug caught my eye. I've seen these before back when I worked at Red Oak. That nature center is right in the midst of the woods, and we would see these longhorn beetles there from time to time. This is called the Ivory-marked Beetle. It's been reported to have the ability to survive for long periods of time in what's probably a pupa stage. It's been seen emerging from wood that was cut, say, 40 years prior, and it just comes crawling out of a furniture leg or tabletop. They do feed on dead wood. I'm not exactly sure where it's feeding. I don't think it's in my house. I do have some maple logs. I need to go over there at night and see what's happening over there. But clearly it was drawn to the light, as were the caddisflies and me a couple of nights ago. But I took a picture again. I didn't have my lip balm with me. I think I used my fingers here to try and show you, but the body itself was over an inch long, and then those antennae you can see are each over an inch long too. So it was a pretty formidable presence there on the glass of the sliding door out there on the deck. Tech support puppy wanted to eat the beetle, so I made sure he went back inside before we took those pictures. As far as I know, it is a native species. It's not considered invasive or anything, but it was really cool to see. Then let's see. This was this was Saturday. Kim, I don't know if you're here tonight, but this was when we took our walk after the Wild Ones group. Wild Ones, if you're not familiar with it and you're into native plants, it's a great group to join. Wild Ones of Greater Kane County had a talk at Hickory Knolls on our weirdly weathered Saturday morning, where we had periods of sun and periods of rain. We also had a period where we took a walk, and this is one of my favorite parts of the Hickory Knolls natural area. This is all the way at the back of our property, which it's not a big natural area, 130 acres, which it's sizable, but when you compare it to some of our forest preserves that are over 1,000 acres, or you compare it to Fermilab, which is 6,000 acres, 130 acres isn't enormous, but this is all the way back where we have our hill prairies. This is the second hill, so it's the westernmost hill, and it's just there's trees back there, and the hills themselves help muffle the noise. From this particular view, you can't see. This is looking this would be southwest, so Route 38 is out there somewhere, but when the vegetation is up the way it is now, you really can't see the road. Ryan, our lead restoration ecologist, he carved a bench, a seat right here, so you can sit and enjoy the view. So if you're looking for a nice place to walk, local folks, take the main trail at Hickory Knolls that heads west, go all the way to the back, make the loop up onto that far hill, and have a sit, set a spell, take your shoes off. It's a really nice and peaceful place to hang out.
And Pam, yeah, this is Kim, and I am here. But I want to say too, I think people don't realize Hickory Knolls has everything, and they have prairies, they've got hills, they've got wetlands and woodlands. It's just a beautiful place. So putting in a plug for Hickory Knolls nature.
Well, thank you, Kim. That, by the way, was completely unsolicited and
Yes.
unpaid. So, no, and before I worked at the Park District, I used to go out there and would get lost. The trail system we've tried to formalize it, especially since we built the nature center. We've created a map, and some of the trails that used to be roads. And for many years, Hickory Knolls was a dump. People would take garbage out there. The boys' home next door would dispose of their trash in the holes that had been dug when the glacial material was removed. But those paths, for the most part now, we've tried to, I think we've got a yellow trail and a green trail, pink, orange, and you can still, if you veer from one of those trails and you're a flatlander like me, you can still get a little lost back there, because of the way the hills, the contours that the glaciers left, create these secluded little environments. And yeah, you can go through the woods, you can get down into the pothole wetlands, and then you can head out here. This particular chunk of prairie is really cool because there's a lot of sand out there, and that sand has created a very unique community of plants. There's some rare species out there that we don't see anywhere else. So yeah, if you get a chance, hike out there. The loop, and it's good cardio because of the hills, and distance wise, the loop out and back, because the property itself is long and narrow, it's a little bit over 2 miles. So
and tiger salamanders that you don't see, but they're there.
Yes, yeah, the tiger salamander. So Ryan every spring does a tiger salamander survey. He uses pitfall traps, and these salamanders that are right now buried in this very diggable sandy soil, they'll come down because at the base of these hills is all wet. There's seeps down there, and that's where the salamanders will lay their eggs, and that's where their larvae grow up. Every year Ryan finds stable populations of between 80 and 100 salamanders over he'll catch about that many over I think it's about a 3-week period that he traps them. So yeah, all kinds of wondrous things, and it's just right here, literally out the back door of Hickory Knolls. So Miss Bonnie, I have to thank you. This was a photo you sent back in early July. I think it was July 6th that you took this photo, and it looks a little bit like a black swallowtail. But if we look at what it's on, we see that it is it's not on a member of the carrot or the parsley family, which is where black swallowtails lay their eggs. This is a pipevine, and this little lady was most definitely laying eggs because today Bonnie sent these pictures. This is the caterpillar of the pipevine swallowtail. And this is a great example of a species that's pretty much tied, the plant and the insect are tied together. They're reliant, the caterpillar is definitely reliant on the pipevine. I would imagine the pipevine gets more than just swallowtails visiting its flowers, but really cool and not terribly common in this area. Bonnie, are you with us tonight? This is a plant that Bonnie's out in Kendall County. I want to say it grows here in Kane County too, but it's not something that we see in a lot of different places. Very, very cool looking. Let's zoom in on this cat.
I am here.
Oh, hi, Miss Bonnie.
Hello. I would almost bet that this plant will grow in Kane County because it is very, very aggressive, shall we say.
Okay.
It sends up suckers everywhere in my planting area. So yeah, I'm guessing it will grow there.
For some reason, I'm thinking of it as more of a southern plant. Is that just because I'm not familiar with it, or is it?
I'd have to look that up again. I know when I got this, I did some research because there are some more ornamental. This one does not have conspicuous flowers. You have to really look for them. But the ones that you probably would see more often planted ornamentally are non-native because they have much more showy flowers, but they also smell like rotting meat when they're blooming, I believe. So yeah, it's if anybody wants any, I have plenty to share.
You can hook us up.
Right. I'm not sure that I would recommend it other than in a really natural area, because in a cultivated area, you're going to fight it every day of the world.
Okay. Well, there must be enough pipevine, because I as wonderful as you are, Miss Bonnie, I don't know if a pipevine swallowtail would follow you for, hundreds of miles to move into your yard. But, so there must be other ones in the area for it to find it. But really cool looking, and much appreciate you sending those photos. It's
no problem.
Really cool. All right. Let's see. Let's go on. So, oh, wait, let's go back. Let's look at Miss Bonnie's pretty healthy caterpillar. Diane, I know I said before I showed yours, I would give the warning. The next photo is, if not for sensitive viewers, or if you're sensitive about these things, please, avert your eyes. But Diane has been raising some Monarch Caterpillars. This one didn't go so well, but it's not. I mean, it's a bad thing for this individual caterpillar. But if we take a larger view of things, the Tachinid flies that did this to this caterpillar are by and large considered to be beneficial insects. Tachinids are. And that's Tachinid, Tachinid flies. I didn't have a picture of an adult, and frankly, fly ID just oftentimes befuddles me. They are there's different types of Tachinid flies, but they look a lot like house flies to me. Some of them, they're small and gray. But they are parasitoids, which means that they will they need to live on another organism, and they kill their host. So if we go back here and we look at this sadly deflated Monarch caterpillar body, and we can see where it was literally it was eaten from the inside out. That's what these larvae do. The fly will lay her egg on the host. The presence of the fly larvae in the caterpillar's body seems to prompt it. I had somebody else tell me what you did, Diane, that the caterpillar went up to form its J and to molt into its chrysalis, but at a size that was smaller than you'd think. It really hadn't been around long enough, but it must trigger something in the caterpillar that makes it think that it's time to go into its pupal stage. But the larvae did pupe. The caterpillar didn't pupate, but the fly larvae did. And here they are. And Diane, I don't know if you're going to rear these up to adult size, but that's what came out of the caterpillar.
I didn't tell you in my message, Pam, but there were actually 5 of them.
Okay.
And when I was getting ready to take the photo, somehow I lost one. It's somewhere in the kitchen. No, I put them outside, but yeah, I usually start with, as I explained, I'm not rearing monarchs that much anymore. I just do a few for the grandkids, but I usually start with eggs. But I did collect one very tiny little caterpillar, and that must have been the one that I had a problem with, because Usually if you bring in the eggs, you don't have an issue, but if it's a caterpillar, then it probably was already attacked by the Tachinid fly.
Gotcha.
So anyway, but again, it was very small when it went up, and next thing I knew, it had made a J, and I thought, it still looks kind of small to me. And sure enough, by the next day, it was just hanging limply. And the other thing I don't know is when the larva comes out of the caterpillar, I mean, does it happen all at once, or do they come out one at a time? I mean, how do you know how many are still in there?
Yeah,
but they apparently slide down those strings, and they're kind of a more transparent color. And then they actually, I had a paper towel in the bottom of the container. They actually climbed under the paper towel, and then they pupated.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't have an answer. I know, like, I liken this to the bracconid wasps that will see the little cocoons on the outside of, say, a hornworm on your tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be sometimes dozens on a single caterpillar, and I've never witnessed the exit. I only see the end result, which is the pupae on the outside of the body. So yeah, I don't know, but it does kind of look like they did a free fall, or
right. They slide down the
or repelling out of the caterpillar.
I know. I mean, over the years, I've really not had this happen that often. So I decided this time to kind of study it and see how it went.
This is how we learn. Yeah.
And as I say, the Tachinid fly has a really good reputation, except for people that raise monarchs.
Yeah, because there's a lot of other things that they do a good job of controlling that are considered pests. So
right. So anyway, I'm trying to be positive about the Tachinid fly.
Right. Well, and it did happen to happen during the week that the monarch was declared endangered, which.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk a whole lot about, but it was not the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that made that declaration. It was the International Union of IUCN, Conservation of Nature, something like that. It's an international group, and they have their red list. They have determined that the monarchs' drop in numbers is to the point where we should be worried about them. and then we have this. Now, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, I know they had considered, or they looked at the monarch butterfly as a potential candidate for being put on the endangered species list here in the United States, but putting something on a list like that comes with a whole lot of extra layers. It means that management plans have to be enacted, and there's a lot more steps to it. IUCN has it's a different type of organization, and they just look at things like numbers. They're not actually involved in the management of the species. They just let us know if we're running out or not. And in their eyes, they think that we are. So, thank you, Diane, for raising a few monarchs this year, and for me raising more in the past. And we'll continue to see how monarchs. I'm pulling for them. I have seen a few more this week. There was concern. I still think that maybe something happened this spring with either weather or temperature. Temperature is a part of weather, but it just seems like a lot of things. I saw my first tiger swallowtail yesterday, and usually I've seen more by now. So maybe there's more to come. Let's hope so. So, since we're on this topic of insects and having fewer of them, I saw this fella when I was coming back from a program yesterday, and he's got a tank on his back, and he's just, I'm sure he was told to, go out and kill the weeds. So he's just spraying all over. There's a patch of mulch next to this hedge, and it just really set me off a little bit, because we as in us, I don't think those of you who tune in every week are as likely to do this, but we as a species, as human beings, we tend to just kill stuff. And the way the chemical was coming out of this sprayer, and he wasn't wearing a mask or anything. Now maybe it's just vinegar, but even vinegar it's an acid. It can kill things. Besides the target weeds that he was going after, there's probably insects that are living there as well. And then today, I'm coming here to, we had our budget kickoff meeting today. And this is parked right where I'm sitting here. It's parked right behind me in the alley. Look at what's on the truck. I don't know what we were being treated for, but that's a stag beetle. That's the same insect that I am trying to rear in little cages on my deck at my house. And it's being used as a part of a logo for a company that kills things. So and I don't think this is part of a big Save the Stag Beetle campaign they have. I think this is just who would want these ugly creatures crawling around your house? Call us and we'll get rid of them for you. Again, I don't know. I was there for a budget meeting. I didn't really have a chance to do any more investigation. I don't know what we're treating for. It's ecological pest management, but I am not 100% sure that I can back that message when they've got a stag beetle and they're portraying it as something bad as opposed to something to be welcomed, which we all recognize it as a beneficial species. All right, one last thing before we get to the chats. This picture, and we can zoom in a little bit on it. This was an unusual squirrel that lived for a relatively short time over at Potawatomi. This picture was taken in November of 2020. It not only has a white tail, but it has a little white stripe on its head. It was spotted frequently, so that was the COVID year, and the preschoolers at Potawatomi spent a lot of time that year outdoors. It was much better to be outside than it was to be inside. So I was getting a lot of reports and a lot of pictures from the Potawatomi preschool teachers of this little white-tailed squirrel. Well, over the winter, there weren't too many sightings of it, and actually, frankly, there have not been any sightings of it since. I think this white tail that it sports here was a signal to predators in the area. Hey, here's a delicious rodent just waiting to be caught, because we have not seen this squirrel since. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is because now let's see, I have to stop this share. So bear with me for a second here. Oh, we got some funky light. Maybe it's time I put this other light on. No, that doesn't really help, but I'm going to do another share so I can show you this video that I got a couple of weeks ago. So this is from a neighborhood, actually not far from where I live, the west side of town by Davis School. Check these guys out. Let's see if I get this to play. You know what? With the black bar in the way, there we go. Look at this. White-tailed squirrels on the west side of town. They're acting very squirrely. Now these two they're young squirrels. This was sent to us by a gentleman named Tim. He was in our naturalist program a couple of years ago, and he and his wife have been getting the biggest kick out of these white-tailed squirrels. Now, if we look, we see that the underside of these squirrels is orange. So I think that these are fox squirrels with white tails. Let's see. Yeah, that to me looks a lot like the coloration that we see on a fox squirrel. Those pictures of the squirrel that was at Potawatomi, that was a gray squirrel. So these genetic blips happen from time to time. I was wondering at first if maybe there was a connection, but I really don't think there is. But it can, once these genes are in a population, they're not dominant genes, but if these guys, get with other squirrels that have a propensity for, this is called leucism, it's not albinism. Being an albino would mean there's no pigment at all, and these guys clearly have lots of pigment everywhere except on their tails. But keep your eyes open and let me know if you're seeing any unusual colorations like that in the squirrels in your neighborhoods. All right, with that, let's take this down and actually let's stop the share. We'll go back here. Oh, that's got even creepier. There. Block that light. I got the bat detector out again because it's not the best buggy weather. Last week was much muggier. Muggy means buggy. But I was sort of wondering if maybe, turn it on here. This alley right behind me here is where the bats fly back and forth, and with that bright light on, I thought there might be a chance that we could pick up some bat activity. I'm going to set it over here. And if I hear some chirps, I'll pick it up again. So that bat detector takes the high frequency sounds that the bats are making, and it brings it down to a level that our ears can hear. Let's see what y'all had to say in the chats. Lori, I think you were talking about, that was probably about the earwigs, and they aren't, earwigs, pipevine, swallowtail, butterflies. There's a big spectrum in the attractive or lack of attractive qualities in our insects, isn't there?
I think it goes back to when they really first started invading, and there were so many of them, and I was just so grossed out. I can't get over it quite yet. I'm trying.
Do you remember, Laura, was that like in the 70s and 80s?
I think it was the 80s, but they were everywhere, and they were gross. Yeah.
It was, and like I said, Tom Bergman got extra credit for his bug collection in the 70s because we didn't see him anywhere. And I remember,
wouldn't get extra credit now.
Yeah, it was to the point where Mr. Dusek was showing everybody in the other classes, oh look what we have a Dermaptera, which he'd never had one in any of his collections before. So yeah, they are, and it's especially when they congregate as they tend to do. It's I don't think they're a social insect, but I think they come together because of the conditions. They need a lot of humidity and see
I'll try and keep an open mind.
There you go. Hug an earwig. Maybe it'll change your mind. So, Chris, all your artistic ways, you drew a mantis band as your screen there. I would love to see that. You're so talented with your insect drawings. But mantises, there's just something about the way they're able to, look at you. This one, I don't know if you could call it training it. I do have a dish of water in the cage with a paper towel in it so that the mantis doesn't fall in and drown. But I have been holding a little spoon for it. In fact, I think I have the spoon with me. It's one of those ice cream sample spoons, but I've been putting water on it, and it drinks from a spoon, which is kind of cool. Maybe we'll do that at a future good-natured meeting. And let's see, accidental tiny creek. What were we talking about?
Hickory knolls.
There we go. Yes. Yeah, so many different things out there, and there's so much groundwater in that area. You never know what you're going to come across. What are the white threads hanging off the monarch? Yeah, they are really good. Again, rest in peace, little monarch caterpillar, but go Tachinids. Okay, so Greg and Kelly, you've got a white squirrel, a squirrel with a white tail too. Yeah, Tim, the guy who sent that video in, said that he tried to get a picture and he gave up because they're just so squirrely. And the people at that were seeing that squirrel at Potawatomi said the same thing. So it could be these animals sense that they need to, they can't sit still for longer. They'll get popped. But yeah, if you see it some more, and you can get a picture or a video or something, that'd be super cool.
Yeah, we'll try. He's just always been like too far away and it hasn't come out. So.
Oh, I know. I had tried. One of the things I wanted to show you guys tonight was the catbird that's out in the elderberries, and I think its babies are starting to fledge. There was one that was sitting outside, and it's without a camera with a big lens and a whole bunch of time. It's really hard to get photos of these things. Tim, the guy that sent the squirrel video, he's retired, so he can spend a day. Let's see, some type of beetle eating your basil plant. Yeah, Meg, I don't know if you've got Japanese beetles, but I've been starting to see them. I found one on my mountain mint today, which kind of.
Oh, I was so surprised in eating the leaves. I should have been smart enough to take a photo of it. Of course, I didn't. I didn't think of it. I just shooed them off,
Was it kind of a copper color?
Yes, I think so.
It might be a Japanese beetle. Boy, with that said, there are beetles that look like Japanese beetles that aren't, but basil,
Who knows, right?
It's tasty. Yeah.
Tasty, I like it.
Yeah. Well, if you happen to snap a photo, if you see, especially if you see a lot of them, I'm gonna guess that's what it is.
There were two when they were having a great time eating the leaves. So
there you go. Well, they tend to hang out, in multiples like that. So it might be what it was.
Oh, thank you.
Sure, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's what I thought so too. I'm gonna ask myself.
Let's see, Sarah, the whitetails on this course. Yeah, I think those were because they were young. I don't think that's a mutation. I think they were just they're out and exploring, Tim said, and I would think as we get into fall and they get starting to prepare for winter, those tails are going to fill out, and their body fur will too. We also, though, we've got a considerable number of hawks there in the neighborhood, so we'll see if those white tails, do them a disservice. As far as I know, since we're talking about these different color variations, the albino squirrel up on Crane Road is still hanging in there. So I think we're coming up on 4 years now. So it might be actually better to have all one color than to have part of your body be lighter and then having part of your body be normal coloration. As the Potawatomi squirrel did not last the winter. We'll see if these other squirrels are able to make it. And yes, if you watch for ticks if you go to Hickory Knolls. We're known for a lot of things out there. The rolling hills, the woodlands, the wetlands, the prairies, the little streams, and ticks. And so, yeah, WGN, we're probably, and this is always subject to breaking news, but the date we're looking at is Friday, September 9th at 9:40 a.m. Praying Mantis. It's if that changes, I'll let you know, but that's what we're looking at right now. And with that, if nobody else has anything to add, I just wanted to say thanks again. I have not heard any chirps here on our bat detector, so I'm going to turn that off. But I am going to go for a little walk, and if I happen to hear any bats, I will see if I can make a recording. We'll try again next week. All right. Everybody, have a great rest of your week, and hope to see you back again soon.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Pam. Good night.
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 Thank you, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Night, night.